Emma was 35, and that morning she had watched them lower her husband, David, into the ground in Singapore. The grave was small, the sky was hot, and none of her family was there. On the long trip home, nearly 30 hours with delays, she kept thinking, at least when I land, someone will hug me. As the plane taxied in Portland, she opened the family group chat. Emma, my flight lands at 5 p.m. Can someone pick me up? A few minutes later, her older brother, Ben, replied, we're busy. Use Uber. Then her mother added, you should have planned better. Emma stared at the screen, her fingers shaking. She typed, no worries. But inside, she broke. She had just buried her husband alone in another country, and her own family could not drive 25 minutes. She did not know that in a few hours, the whole city would see those messages on the evening news and wonder, how could a family do this? Before life turned into one long ache, Emma had been happy. She and David met in college when he spilled coffee on her economics textbook. He looked so guilty that he said, let me buy you dinner to make up for it. She laughed and said, it was a cheap book. He still took her to dinner. They married after graduation and bought a small 2-story house in Portland. Emma worked as a marketing manager. David was a software engineer, the kind who got promoted fast because he was kind and smart. In spring, she planted tomatoes and he teased, these could win a prize. On Thursdays, they had game nights with friends. On Sundays, they meal prepped and talked about the future. We'll have a baby soon, David would say, rubbing her shoulder. We'll turn that office into a nursery. Their life wasn't perfect, but it was gentle, and it was theirs. Everything shifted when David got an offer from a tech company in Singapore. It's 6 months, he told her, eyes bright. It'll look amazing on my resume, and we can travel. They cooked a special dinner the night before he left, candles flickering on the table. 6 months will fly, he said, taking her hand. Then we start the next chapter. Emma believed him. They video called every day at first. She even visited for 3 weeks during the holidays. Singapore was warm and colorful, and David showed her the city like a proud tour guide. They talked about maybe trying for a baby when he came back. Everything still felt open, wide, possible. Then one morning, on a call, David rubbed his head and said, I've got a bad headache, probably stress. 8 hours later, a coworker called from his phone. David collapsed. He's in the hospital. And Emma's world snapped. She got on the earliest flight she could. 26 hours later, she walked into a bright hospital in Singapore with swollen eyes and the wrong clothes for the heat. A doctor with kind eyes explained slowly, brain aneurysm. We operated. Damage is severe. Emma sat beside David's bed for 5 days. She held his hand, showed him pictures, whispered, baby, it's me. I'm here. Please wake up. But David did not wake up. She called home every day. Mom, it's really bad. Her mother would say, we're praying. Her brother would say, try to get things handled so you can come back. No one said, do you want me to come? On the 5th day, the doctor said there was nothing more they could do. David was 37. Emma signed papers she didn't understand, in a country that was not hers, and felt like she was signing away her own life. What came next was harder than grief: paperwork, death certificates, embassy offices, translation, payment. Bringing David's body home cost more than she could handle. So she buried him there, in that quiet cemetery, with only a few of his co-workers and 2 expats. She video-called her parents from outside the cemetery gate. We're so sorry, dear, her mother said, face small on the screen. Flights were too expensive last minute. Her father added, you're strong. You can manage. Emma wanted to scream, I shouldn't have to manage this alone. Instead, she said, yeah, I'll be okay. She emptied their savings, maxed a card, and slept in a rented apartment full of his clothes. Every evening, she texted her family updates. Every evening, they replied with short messages and emojis. Not once did anyone say, do you want me there? 3 days before she left Singapore, she sent her flight details to the family group chat. Emma, landing Sunday 5 p.m. long trip. Please, I'll have 3 suitcases. Her mother reacted with her emoji. Her brother replied, bring me something from Singapore on the flight home. Tired and hungry, Emma began to connect the dots. When she was 8 and broke her arm, her parents left her at the hospital with a neighbor because Ben had a soccer final. At her high school graduation, she was valedictorian. They left early to beat traffic. At her wedding, her mother spent the whole time worried about Ben's date. Emma had spent her whole life excusing them. They are busy. They show love differently. But now she was a widow, and their replies were still the same. As the plane landed, she sent one last text. Can anyone pick me up? I'm exhausted. Ben, we're busy. Use Uber. Mom, why didn't you plan better? Emma's heart went cold. She decided right there. This is the last time I beg them to show up. At baggage claim, her 3 suitcases rolled out. 1 with her clothes, 2 with David's things. His shirts, his shoes, his journal. She pulled them onto a cart, but one wheel was stuck. As she pushed toward the exit, the top suitcase fell, burst open, and David's clothes spilled across the shiny airport floor. Emma dropped to her knees, crying, grabbing handfuls of shirts. A woman in an airport vest hurried over. Her name tag said Gloria. Oh honey, let me help, Gloria said, kneeling beside her. Rough trip, Emma whispered. My husband died. I just came from his funeral. Gloria's eyes softened. I'm so sorry. Together they packed the suitcase. Gloria even walked her to the rideshare area. Is anyone coming for you? She asked. No, Emma said. My family is busy. Gloria frowned. That's not right. She waited with Emma until her car came, loaded the bags, and squeezed her hand. Get some rest, she said. A stranger had shown more care than Emma's own family. The ride home was $78 because of rush hour. The driver, an older man named Mike, tried to make small talk. You visiting or coming home? Coming home, Emma said, staring out the window. Long trip. He glanced at her in the mirror and, seeing her red eyes, turned on soft music instead. When they reached her house, it was dark, cold, and exactly as she left it 6 months before. Her mother had said, We'll make sure the heater is on. Her brother had said, I'll stock the fridge. None of it was done. The thermostat was low. The fridge was almost empty. Mail overflowed. The house smelled closed. Emma dragged the suitcases upstairs, too tired to cry again. She could not sleep in the bed she had shared with David, so she curled up in the chair by the window, still in her coat, surrounded by pictures of happier days. I made it home, babe, she whispered into the dark. But it doesn't feel like home. Morning came with a horrible sound. Water. When she reached the kitchen, she froze. A pipe had burst in the ceiling. Water streamed down the wall, across the cabinets, and onto the floor. The house was freezing, so the pipes must have snapped during the cold snap everyone had been warning about. If someone had turned on the heat like they promised, it would not have happened. Emma waded through icy water and shut off the main valve, fingers burning from the cold. Then she called plumbers. Everyone was busy until Tuesday. So she called the person who should have been her safe place. Ben, she said, voice shaking. The house is flooded. I just got back from burying David. Can I stay with you for a few days? Ben sighed. Tonight's bad. We're having clients over. And the guest room is full of stuff. Did you try Mom and Dad? She called her mother. Oh, sweetheart, the bridge club is meeting here, her mother said. The house is all set up. Maybe book a hotel? That's what insurance is for. Emma stood in 3 inches of cold water, phone in hand, and realized, they really won't help me. Exhausted, hungry, and getting colder, Emma tried to fix what she could. She went down to the basement to check the electrical panel, phone flashlight in her hand. The basement floor was wet. She stepped carefully, but the floor was slick, and as she reached for the metal box, her foot slipped. Her hand hit the panel. A sharp jolt shot through her arm. She fell backward, hit her head, and the world went dark. When she came to, she was on the floor, shivering, blood warm on her temple, the house still freezing. She crawled upstairs and collapsed on the sofa. The carbon monoxide alarm began to beep. Something in the heating system had been damaged. Her phone was on the table, just out of reach. She tried to grab it, but her arm wouldn't move. This is it, she thought faintly. I buried my husband alone. I might die alone too. Across the street, Mrs. Clark saw water spilling from Emma's front door and heard the alarm. She called 911. Minutes later, firefighters broke down the door and found Emma unconscious, in a flooded, freezing house. Her phone opened to a family chat that said, We're busy. Use Uber. The firefighters carried Emma out of the cold, wet house and laid her on a stretcher. One of them noticed the open phone on the table and the group chat on the screen. She just flew in from overseas, and they told her to get an Uber, he murmured to the paramedic. At the hospital, doctors moved fast. Her body temperature was low, she had a mild electric shock, a concussion, and early carbon monoxide poisoning. A nurse named Sarah cleaned the cut on her forehead and spoke gently, "You're safe now, Emma. You did well holding on." In her half-awake state, Emma told her everything in short, broken sentences. "My husband died in Singapore, came home, nobody came, house flooded." Sarah wrote it down, worried that Emma had no one to go home to. In the same hospital, a local reporter named Mark was covering storm-related emergencies. When he heard a paramedic say, "We just brought in a widow who almost froze to death because no one checked her house," his ears perked up. "Can I get more on that?" he asked. By evening, the story was on TV. The headline read, "Widow returns from husband's overseas funeral, nearly dies alone in flooded home." Mark interviewed Mrs. Clark, the neighbor. She arrived in a taxi with 3 big bags. Mrs. Clark said on camera, looking guilty, "I thought she looked tired. I should have gone over sooner." Mark also talked to one of the paramedics, who didn't show his face but said, "It was heartbreaking. Her phone was right there. She'd asked her family for a ride. They told her to take an Uber. Then she came home to a freezing, leaking house." Screenshots of the group chat, Emma, landing at 5. "Mom, you should have planned better." "Ben, we're busy. Use Uber." Were blurred but readable. People watching from home were shocked. Comments started flooding social media. #No worries began trending in the city, with people posting, "This is why found family matters," and "How do you leave your daughter alone after her husband's funeral?" Emma's family saw it too. Ben called their mother, "They made us look like monsters." Their mother snapped, "We have to go to the hospital right now. People from church are already calling." They arrived at the hospital in nice coats, speaking loudly at the nurse's desk. "We're her family," her mother said. "We had no idea she was in danger." A nurse raised an eyebrow but let them through. When they entered Emma's room, she was awake but weak, an oxygen tube under her nose. Her mother went straight into defense. "Emma, sweetheart, this is a huge misunderstanding. The news twisted it. Of course we care." Ben added, "Yeah, if we knew the house was that bad, we would have come." Emma looked at them, her eyes tired. She remembered calling from Singapore. She remembered asking for a place to stay just that morning. None of them had come then, only now that everyone was watching. A little later, Dr. Lewis came in with a folder. "Emma," he said, "you had a close call. You need warmth, rest, and someone with you for at least 48 hours because of the concussion." He looked at her mother and brother. "Will someone be with her around the clock?" Her mother smiled quickly. "Yes, of course. She'll come stay with us. We're a very close family." The nurse, Sarah, who had heard the whole TV story, glanced at Emma. She saw the way Emma's shoulders tensed when her mother spoke. Quietly, Sarah asked, "Emma, are you comfortable with that plan? We can also arrange community support. You have options." The room went still. Her mother turned sharply. "Options? She's coming with her family." Ben nodded. "Yeah, we can post something online to clear this up." Emma looked from her mother to the nurse. In her mind, she heard David's calm voice from long ago. "You can't make them love you the right way. You can only choose how much power they have." Emma took a slow breath. "I want to hear the other options," she said. Her mother's mouth fell open. "Emma, don't be dramatic. People already think we abandoned you." Ben said, "Yeah, don't make it worse." Emma's voice stayed soft, but this time it didn't shake. "I didn't make it worse," she said. "I asked for a ride. You said no. I asked to stay over. You said no. I came home to a freezing house because no one kept the heat on like they promised. I almost died." Ben started. "We were busy, you're always busy," Emma said, looking straight at him. "When I graduated, you were busy. When I got married, you were busy. When I buried my husband, you were busy. But now the news is watching, and suddenly you're free." Her mother's eyes flashed. "We have always supported you." Emma shook her head. "You've supported how we look, not how I feel." Sarah stepped in gently. "We have a hotel offering a warm room for 2 weeks, a company fixing your house for free, meal deliveries, and a local grief group, she told Emma. You can choose that.
Emma nodded.
Then I choose that. Her mother stood up, offended. So you're choosing strangers over family?
Emma met her eyes.
I'm choosing people who showed up. The social worker, Mrs. Patel, came in right then with a calm smile and a stack of papers. Emma, I've spoken with the community teams, she said. Your house is already being assessed. A hotel nearby has offered you a warm room, fully paid, while repairs are done.
Meals will be delivered. Neighbors have offered to check on you.
You won't be alone. Emma listened, relief washing over her. Someone had finally said the words she needed. You won't be alone. Behind her, her mother snapped. This is unnecessary. She has a family.
Mrs. Patel stayed professional.
She also has a choice. Ben muttered under his breath, this is going to look so bad.
Emma turned to him. That's all you care about, she said quietly. How you look.
Not whether I nearly died after burying my husband. Her father, who had been silent near the door, shifted uncomfortably. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. For the first time, he looked like he actually saw her, not just his daughter, but a woman who had walked through fire and was done begging. When her family realized she wasn't changing her mind, they tried a different tactic. You know people are talking, her mother said, lowering her voice.
Your aunt called me. The Hendersons saw the news.
Do you want everyone to believe we're cruel?
Emma blinked at her.
I didn't send it to the news, she said. I was unconscious. Ben said, then help us fix it. Come stay with us so people know we're involved. Emma almost laughed. Stay with the very people who left me standing at the airport?
No, she said simply.
I'm tired of pretending we're close when we're not.
Her mother's face hardened. Fine.
When you come to your senses, call us. I probably won't, Emma replied, not unkindly. I'm going to focus on getting better. They filed out, stiff and offended, whispering about ingratitude. After they left, the room felt lighter.
Sarah adjusted Emma's blanket. That was brave, she said. Emma let out a shaky breath. It didn't feel brave. It felt necessary.
Necessary is enough, Sarah said. By the next afternoon, Emma was discharged straight to the hotel the community had arranged. The room was warm, truly warm, not like her frozen house. A basket waited on the table with snacks, tea, and a card that said, We're so sorry for your loss.
You're not alone.
Portland General Staff. Emma stood by the window, looking at the river, and felt something new, not happiness, but a slow, steady kind of relief. Strangers had made space for her. The restoration company sent photos of her house, pipes repaired, fans running, thermostat replaced with a smart one she could control from her phone. One of the firefighters even dropped off her suitcase from the house.
He said, whole station saw the news. If you need anything, call.
That shouldn't have happened to you. Emma thanked him, her eyes stinging. That night she slept in a real bed, under clean sheets, in a place where the heat actually worked. She whispered, David, I'm okay for tonight.
The story didn't die down quickly. People online kept talking about it.
Some shared their own stories. My parents skipped my surgery for my brother's soccer game. I buried my mom alone too. The hashtag #no worries became a kind of code for, I asked for care and didn't get it. Local businesses sent emails to the hospital asking if Emma needed clothes, groceries, or rides. A grief support group leader named Eleanor called and said, We'd love to have you. You've gone through 2 losses, your husband, and the kind of family you thought you had.
Emma went.
The group met in a warm room in a community center.
People sat in a circle with tissues on the table.
When it was her turn, Emma said, My husband died overseas, and I thought the worst part would be the plane ride home. But the worst part was realizing my family would always choose convenience over me.
Heads around the circle nodded. She wasn't the only one. Meanwhile, her family tried to do damage control.
Her mother posted a long message on Facebook. There has been a misunderstanding. We love our daughter very much. The comments were not kind.
People had seen the messages on TV. Ben called Emma. Can you at least say online that we're helping you? He asked.
Emma was sitting on the hotel bed, laptop open, meal delivery on the table.
But you're not helping me, she said calmly. The community is. The neighbors are.
The hospital is.
Ben sounded frustrated.
Families mess up. You don't have to shame us.
I didn't shame you, she said.
I just didn't cover for you this time.
There was a long silence on the line.
Then Ben said, quieter now. So, what now?
Emma looked out at the river, the city lights reflecting on the water. Now I heal, she said.
With the people who actually showed up. Over the next few weeks, Emma settled into a new rhythm.
Twice a week she went to the grief group.
On Sundays, her neighbor, Mrs. Clark, brought soup and said, "You scared us that day." The restoration company finished her house and even upgraded a few things so this doesn't happen again. Each act of kindness reminded her, love didn't have to be begged for. When she finally moved back home, the house felt different, warmer, safer, like it belonged to her now, not to the life she and David had planned together. One evening, Eleanor from the support group said, "Sometimes we can turn pain into help for someone else."
That stuck in Emma's mind.
David had loved travel and learning. So she called their old college and asked, "Do you have a scholarship for students studying abroad, but who might need emergency help?" They didn't. So she started one, the David Miller Memorial Travel Support Fund, to pay for things she wished she'd had, emergency flights, fast paperwork, someone to call. Building it didn't erase her loss, but it made the loss do something good.
Her family kept their distance.
Her mother sent a card that said, "Hope you're feeling better. We miss you at family dinners." There was no mention of the airport, the flooded house, or the hospital scene. Ben texted links to PR ideas about how they could shift the narrative. Emma replied with short, polite messages, nothing more. Then, one day, a plain envelope arrived.
It was from her father.
The handwriting was a bit shaky. "Emma," it read, "I watched that news clip 3 times.
I saw your face. I saw how tired you were.
I should have come. I don't have an excuse. I can't change that day, but I would like to know you better, the way you are now, not the daughter we assumed would always adjust. If you're willing, maybe we can start small. Lunch, just us." Emma sat with the letter for a long time.
This was different. Not defensive. Not about image. Just honest.
She showed it to Eleanor, who said, "You can accept repair without dropping your boundaries."
So Emma wrote back, "Lunch is okay. Just you.
No big family events yet." Lunch with her father was awkward at first. They met at a small cafe, and he looked older than she remembered. He cleared his throat. "You look stronger," he said. "I am," Emma replied. "People helped me."
He nodded slowly.
"Not us." "Not you," she agreed, but her voice was calm, not cruel.
He sighed.
"Your mother may never see it the way you do. Your brother too. But I saw you lying in that hospital bed on TV and thought, that's my daughter, and she couldn't count on us."
"I don't like the man that makes me."
Emma stared at him, surprised by the honesty. "I don't want to go back to pretending," she said. "I won't sit at Sunday dinners and laugh like nothing happened."
"You don't have to," he said.
"We can start with lunches."
It wasn't a perfect fix. It didn't rewrite childhood. But it was real. And real was better than fake.
She kept him in her life, on purpose, not out of duty. Months later, when the scholarship was ready, Emma held a small gathering at her house. Some friends from the grief group came. Mrs. Clark came. The firefighter who had carried her out stopped by to say hello. They clapped when she announced the first student who would get help traveling abroad. "This is for anyone who wants to see the world," Emma said, "and for anyone who might one day need their family, but doesn't have one nearby."
People smiled. Some wiped their eyes.
Her own family had been invited. Only her father sent his apologies and a gift for the student. Her mother and Ben did not come. And to Emma's surprise, it didn't break her. She looked around the room at the people who had come. Neighbors, nurses, new friends, and thought, this is family too. After everyone left, she stood in her quiet, repaired house, the heat working, the pipes secure, and she whispered toward the ceiling. "David, I did something with it. With the pain. I didn't let it end me." Exactly 1 year after David's death, Emma stood in an airport again. This time to fly back to Singapore to visit his grave. The airport didn't feel like a place of abandonment anymore. It felt like a place of movement. Around her, families hugged and laughed. She watched them with a soft heart, not a jealous one. She knew now that some people loved loudly and quickly, and some people loved only when watched. She had learned to tell the difference. As she waited to board, her phone buzzed. A message from her father, "Safe travels." He would be proud of you. Another from Mrs. Clark. Send us a picture of the grave. We're thinking of you.
Emma smiled.
This time, she wasn't coming home to an empty, freezing house or to people who said, "We're busy."
She was coming home to a circle she had chosen.
On the plane, she looked out the window and thought, being abandoned didn't make me unworthy.
It just showed me where not to look anymore.
And if anyone watching her story felt that same hurt, she would tell them what she had learned. Your value is not measured by who failed you, but by who shows up when it matters. That was how Emma's story ended. Not with her begging for love, but with her standing in her own, surrounded by people who proved that family can be found, built, and welcomed in, even after the worst year of your life.